Grand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send me a donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Peace. What it is, it's your brother Tavon Sueno, a.k.a. the Orthodox Moor, a.k.a. the Seven Pillar Saracen, and this is Debate Talk for You. Welcome to the first edition of Debate Talk for You Speaker's Corner, where I will be reviewing some video from Speaker's Corner from one of my good brother's channels over there in the UK. Shout out to Somali speakers over there, my brother Khalid. I wanted to try to bridge a couple of gaps in a couple of worlds real quick through this channel and kind of get some conversations going back and forth between the USA and the UK on a lot of conversations concerning apologetics and whatnot, because the Speaker's Corner, if you're not familiar with it, it's an area in England, in London, where it's a park, Hyde Park, where it's a specific free speech zone. In the UK, they don't have free speech the same way we do in America. And so Hyde Park is their free speech zone, where it's like basically the miniature America, where they can say whatever they want to. They can talk about the Queen if they want to, all kind of stuff. And so a lot of prominent conversations that go on there are basically conversations about free speech, conversations about Islam, excuse me, conversations about Christianity. There's Sikhs that come to the park. There's atheists that come to the park, all kind of stuff. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of like get some interactions going on between America and the UK, et cetera, whatnot. I know a lot of people over there in Speaker's Corner, in London, whatnot. I spend a lot of time talking to people in back chats and in other videos and whatnot, and panels and whatnot. So I thought I'd try to bridge a couple gaps and whatnot. And so I'm a moderator on a channel called Somali Speakers and whatnot. Again, shout out to my brother Khalid. He's a Somalian brother who goes over to Speaker's Corner, films quite a bit. He has a decent channel. He has a fantastic channel over there. I got people over on the channel called Content Over Everything. Shout out to my man Leon. Has one of the best channels ever on Speaker's Corner. Has a lot of fantastic footage and whatnot. But right now, I'm going to be covering a topic and conversation that my brother Khalid captured a couple of weeks ago with a very prominent Christian apologist at Speaker's Corner, who's making some very interesting points that I want to address on a multitude of sides and whatnot. He shows up with a person who was a Christian who then became a Muslim, who apostated and then became a Christian again. And so they're talking about apostasy laws. They're talking about a lot of stuff concerning that. And then they also talk about wife beating in the Quran, et cetera, whatnot. So I'm going to let this video roll, let them speak for themselves, and then I'm going to address a lot of points that they make afterwards and whatnot. And so to be clear, I am not adverse to Christianity. I'm not a Christian myself. I have a lot of friends that are Christians and such whatnot. I'm not adverse to Christianity. One of my favorite things about Speaker's Corner is that I like for people to make their best arguments and have them be tested or whatnot. And Speaker's Corner is a place to where you get your arguments tested and whatnot. So I have a lot of respect for Bob the Builder. I do not consider him an adversary in any way, shape, or form. He's not a fan of Muslims in any way, shape, or form. But I am a fan of the way he goes at them. I like the way how he tests people and whatnot. So any critique I have is not of Bob the Builder, et cetera, whatnot, or Christianity, et cetera. I'm actually going to be critiquing apologetics and debate tactics and arguments, et cetera, whatnot. I don't got a dog in the fight in that sense. I'm not picking winners and losers and all that kind of stuff, but I am going to address tactics. But with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen and get this popping off. I hope y'all are having a good evening wherever you're at. Here we go, family.
And 4830. And then obviously the law of apostasy, which I'm kind of now applicable to, because at the end of the day, everyone has the right, because God has given us all free will, as I see it, to do as they wish with their own faiths. So if someone chooses to leave a faith, that's their right. But obviously you find this in Bukhari and obviously in the Quran as well. In the Quran it's in 489, and in Bukhari it's 55 to 16.
Okay, so I want you, all you liberal do-gooders that may come across this video, to realize that there are Muslims in the park that will defend the idea of killing apostates. That means that there are Muslims in the park that would defend the idea of killing Sam because he left Islam. Let that sit on your conscience for a second the next time that you try to teach that all religions are the same. Because I have my New Testament with me, and I challenge anyone to find in the New Testament a command to kill apostates. There is no such command. The idea of hating the unbeliever is something that you were taught in the mosque. Yes. The idea that you couldn't love those who didn't worship Allah. And we've heard other Muslims in the park talk about hating for the cause of Allah. We know that they say that. Well, hold on 1 second. Jesus said, you shall know them by their fruits, and by their fruits you shall know them. If your religion is cultivating hatred and bitterness towards others, and you embrace that teaching of your religion, then that means that you are embracing hatred and bitterness towards others. It becomes who you are. By contrast, what did our Lord say? He said, love your enemies and do good to those that curse you. The contrast could not be more stark between the teachings of Muhammad and the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ. They are completely different philosophies, completely different moral structures. The contrast is between black and white. They are not the same religion, they don't teach the same, they don't believe in the same God, and their prophets didn't bring the same message. One of the other things that you mentioned, one of the first things that you mentioned, the treatment of women. In the Quran, it says that if your wife is disobedient, first admonish her, then banish her from the bed, and then if she continues, beat her. Beat her. Now, the apologists here in the park will say this, that when it talks about beating, it talks about a symbolic beating with a tiny little stick. It's like doing this. That's what they're talking about, right? Firstly, beating women in any sense is wrong. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it with a little stick or doing it with your fist. If your religion is teaching that it is permissible to beat women in any regard, your religion needs to change. Because women are made with the same dignity, the same imatio Deo, the same image of God that any man is made of. And where's the Quranic instruction for the woman to beat the man? Why is it only one way? After all, I thought they were meant to be equal. There is no such teaching in the New Testament about beating women. By contrast, the apostles say that we Christians must love our wives as Christ loved the church. Christ gave his life for the church. We must give our lives for our wives. It teaches that we must honor and dignify one another and serve one another. That's the economy of the Christian family, not the idea that the man gets to beat women. And think about the logic of it. The Quran says first admonish them, and then it says banish them from the bed. So that's an escalation. It's you tell them off, and then you kick them out of the bed. Just for you all, you Arab girls out there. We Christian men, when we fall out with our wives, because of our chivalry, it's the man that leads the bed and sleeps on the settee, not the woman. Because in our faith, we have this concept of chivalry, this idea of the Christian knight. So even if the woman was in the wrong and you couldn't sleep in the same bed, the man would sleep on the settee, not the woman. Now, the escalation is admonish them, banish them from the bed, and then it says beat them. Now, logically, why would you suddenly go admonish them, banish from the bed, and then symbolically beat them? It doesn't go with the flow of the text. The text is talking about an increase in punishment. There are hadiths where Aisha says that she has not seen any women amongst any people that are as badly treated as the women of the Ummah. And she uses examples of women that are bruised, deeply bruised, because of the treatment of Muslim men. But a Christian man must love and honor his wife. He must love them and serve them like Christ loves the church. This contrast is clear. Make your choice. Now, the third thing is we've asked for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the thing that we're defining as the ugly is the idea of silly superstitions. So do you want to give your examples? So the first one is obviously Muslim.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop it right there because I get into a whole nother thing at this juncture. But so they say a lot of things that I want to address. And first and foremost, again, I want to say how much I appreciate the specificity of Bob's arguments. I'm a Quranist Muslim. I'm in the minority of Muslims out there, right? I do not recognize the Hadith as a source of jurisprudence or a source of any knowledge I should take in order to rule my life with in any way, shape, or form. In fact, how I read the Quran, I'm only allowed to take the previous scriptures as such, right? It stipulates in Surah 10, Ayat 94, that if I'm in doubt as to anything that comes down to me in that Quran, then I'm supposed to go to the people of the previous scripture for clarity. There's also another scripture that stipulates in the Quran that the Torah is a criterion, meaning it's a statute book. And the Quran is the only other thing called a criterion within the Quran. So there's a previous scripture that is equally a statute book, the way I read it. So I have a different take on Islam than most Muslims do. So first and foremost, I don't take any offense to any argument that the ex-Muslim brother makes or that Bob makes in terms of going at the Hadith. When he cites the Hadith, in fact, I probably most times, like 9 times out of 10, will agree with his argument on the Hadith because I don't recognize him in any way, shape, or form. And you're going to hear a difference, in my opinion, in what I'm about to show in the Quran versus what he said about some of the Muslims in the park. He said that some of the Muslims in the park would defend the concept of apostasy laws. So I want to talk about the apostasy laws, and I want to talk about the concept of chivalry and wife beating within the Quran, etc., whatnot. Because again, this concept of apostasy laws is a very big deal that people need to understand, and it needs to be a conversation on the table that's had clearly. And hopefully, at one point, I can sit down with Bob the Builder and have a conversation on this channel about this concept. If you like what you heard there and you're interested more in hearing what Bob the Builder has to say, go check out his channel, SOCO Films, SOCO Films. That's the channel that you'll see him on mostly, in terms of Speaker Corner videos and whatnot. Speaker's Corner happens every Saturday and Sunday over at Hyde Park in London. So on the weekend, you'll see a lot of videos pop up from Speaker's Corner. A lot of videos. Most of them will be Christian and Islamic videos and whatnot. And some of you are becoming familiar with, or more familiar with Speaker's Corner, because there is a couple of apologetics groups out there, DCII Apologetics, and then our ministries, and another one by Dr. J. Smith. Him and a woman named Hatun, who was a Christian apologist, have been doing a lot of work in terms of showing what they call holes in the Quranic narrative. Very recently, in the past couple of months, there's been a very large stirring of the pot in between the Christians and the Muslims in terms of the apologetics community, because a lot of Muslims who follow the Hadith make a claim that the Quran will be preserved word for word, letter for letter, jot for jot, tittle for tittle, and its perfect preservation is why it's a superior book to all other books out there, and why you should follow it, and all that other kind of stuff. And they try to go to Christians and tell them, like, well, the Quran is better than the Bible because it's been perfectly preserved, and your book hasn't been preserved, etc., whatnot. And so what Hatun found was that there was multiple variant Qurans, just like there's variant text within the New Testament tradition, etc., whatnot. And so at first it was like 15, then 20, then 30, and now they're talking about 100 different variant Qurans with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of variations in terms of how certain verses are worded, etc., whatnot. And so it's basically overthrown a very big table in the Islamic world, in a sense, to where in Islam there's never been an age of textual criticism, to where they take the variant texts and they compare and contrast them and whatnot. And so what little old Hatun from Speaker's Corner and Dr. J. Smith from over there have made it to where we have now entered the age of textual criticism of Islam, whether the Muslims want it or not. And so the Christians are having a very big victory party over there about the whole concept. And you're seeing a lot of videos going back and forth concerning that, that have even escalated to people like David Wood and the apostate prophet eating and tearing up the Quran, etc., whatnot. And a lot of other shenanigans after that, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, there's a lot that's been going on and whatnot. However, in the midst of that, there's been a lot of Muslims who have actually lost faith in the Quran and in the narrative they were told, and they've actually apostated. They've actually left Islam. And so this concept of apostasy laws is something that I really want to cover in depth via the Quran, for two reasons. One, to kind of correct the people who act upon these so-called apostasy laws, because they're nowhere in the Quran. They're nowhere found in the Quran. And two, I want to clarify something for Christians, etc., whatnot, and people who apostate from Islam and become, or so-called apostate, because I'm going to clear this up, who so-called apostate from Islam and become Christians. I want to clear this up for y'all in the sense to where you can understand the different schools of thought within Islam, because this is something that gets muddied within Christian apologetics or whatnot. A lot of people don't understand the different schools of thought within Islam. They don't understand the Sunni school of thought. They don't understand the Shia school of thought. They don't understand the Sufi school of thought. They don't understand the Quranist school of thought. They don't understand the Ahmadiyya school of thought. They don't understand the Moor school of thought, etc., etc., etc. They see it all as one thing. And typically, when you hear Christian apologists talk about Islam, you hear them talk about like Sahih Bukhari, which is a Sunni groupings of hadith or whatnot. The Shias have their own hadith, which are separate from the Bukhari, that they don't even recognize Bukhari like that, right? So you get a lot of stuff from the hadith where they'll give you tradition where for instance, the hadith will say that Muhammad married Aisha at the age of 6 and consummated the marriage at the age of 9. Well, the Shias don't believe that. They believe that she was closer to 19, etc., whatnot, right? But they have a whole different set of traditions in their hadith where you get the stories of the Mahdi and all those other kind of things, to where the Christian apologists will give you the eschatology, the end time stories of the Shia tradition. So in apologetics, you get this concept to where the picture of Islam you get painted is a blend of Sunni and Shia, right? You get Sunni jurisprudence with Shia eschatology. And so as the Christian, you get this mishmash of different schools and traditions, and think it's all the same thing, right? And the truth is, it gives most Christians or people who don't understand Islam a misunderstanding of what the different schools actually believe in totality. So you confuse one for the other. So for instance, if I was going to go to Speaker's Corner and debate Bob the Builder, he's not a Catholic. So it would be improper for me to go debate him as if he was a Catholic and use arguments that I would use against the Catholic. So, for instance, There was a time where David Wood went in front of a group of Shia Muslims, right, and started arguing for a bunch of Sunni points. And he even recognized, he was like, yeah, most of you won't even recognize what I'm saying, or you won't agree with what I'm saying because you're not Sunnis. But he spent his whole time arguing against Sunnis, and he was in front of a Shia group. That's not really going to be like a argument or a conversation in good faith, so to speak, right? So to help Christians have a better understanding and able to navigate their apologetics when they're talking to other different types of Muslims, I'm trying to help you have a better conversation in good faith from understanding the different schools of thought within Islam as well. So, for instance, I want to clarify, Bob said that there's going to be some Muslims at the park that defend this concept of apostasy laws and apostasy killing, etc., whatnot, right? Some of them will, not all of them. There's different types of Muslims at just that park, and that park's a fantastic representation of what the world looks like, in the sense to where in the Sunni tradition there's multiple types of Sunnis, right? In the Shia tradition there's multiple types of Shias, etc. There's Quranists there, all that type of stuff. So there's a good blend of Muslims at that park. So I'm happy that Bob said some of them. He specified some. He didn't say all, and I appreciate him for that. And I'd love to sit him down and have a conversation and be like, yeah, like, what's your perspective on the ones that do say this stuff, right? So people can get a real clear understanding as to what's going on. But for the ones that don't stipulate that belief, I want to break down why they don't. They don't because the Quran doesn't have anything to do with that concept of apostasy clause. The Quran literally stipulates, unto you your way, unto me mine, and that there's no compulsion in the concept of religion. Not only that, leaving Islam and becoming a Christian would not be considered apostasy within the concept of the Quran. Shout out to my sister Devoniah. Hey, Devoniah, you want to jump on? You can jump on if you like, because I'm actually going to talk about the Torah in a second. I would love to actually get your opinion on the Torah. That's the sister Devoniah right there. Shout out to that sis. But yeah, as I was saying, go ahead and jump on, sis. There's different schools of thought in this concept of apostasy and whatnot. Like, so let's say I left. Let's say I was born a Muslim and I decided that, you know what, I prefer the Christian way of doing things, or I prefer the Jewish way of doing things, or the Israelite way of doing things, etc., etc., etc. Right? Those traditions are considered people of the book within in the Quran. That's not considered apostate. The Quran considers that people of the book and whatnot, right? And so it literally says, "Come, let us, like, oh people of the book, let us come to common terms between us and you." Right? That, long story short, that we agree on three things: that there's one God, that you don't associate partners equal to Him, and that we don't make men from amongst ourselves equal to the Most High. Hold on. Shout out to the sister Devoniah. How you doing, Queen?
Shout out, brother. Shalom, my lord. How are you?
All is well. Let me get my joint set up right. Hold on. So we are on Sal's platform, Debate Talk for You. So FYI, there is no foul language on this platform, and that goes for anyone who wants to jump on later on. You can jump on as well. We just got to keep it PG for the family. Yeah, how you doing, sis?
I'm well. Thank you.
Yeah,
I had a little Karen episode the other day on the airplane.
Wow.
And no one was, well, not me personally, the whole airplane. I'm coming back from Florida, and in mid-flight, well, we weren't actually mid-flight. We probably were a little bit over a third of the way through the flight coming back from Florida to New York. And next thing we hear, no one was paying attention that we're back flying over a city area. And next thing the pilot is like, ladies and gentlemen, asking you to buckle up your seatbelt. We will be landing in 10 minutes. So everybody, I'm sitting next to my daughter-in-law, everybody's looking at each other like, what? No way. What did they use? The flat earth map to get to New York that fast? What, what do you mean? Come to find out now, we land, and next thing you see, plainclothes guy in a suit, black suit with a badge on, and a Broward County sheriff guy, or one of those, officers and he got a badge on in his uniform, and they come and they're escorting a Karen off the plane with no mask. They had to, and as we're going to this, I'm like, guys, do you realize the setback we have now in arriving to our destination? Because not only we have to cater to this, the plane has to refuel for the fuel it dumped over the water for it to land safely. So we had to sit there for what I filmed the whole thing. I filmed it. I said, no, I've got to get this. But yeah. And then when you get off the plane, they want you now, after all of this, they approaching you. You can't get out and get your baggages unless you fill out a form, some kind of quarantine form and all this. It's madness right now. It's cheap to fly, but it's madness to fly right now. What's going through. But yeah, I don't know why I shared that, but I just felt someone told me to share it. Sorry.
No, that sounds like an interesting story. I'd love to see that video at one point.
Yeah. So
but yeah,
I missed what you were talking about this video here. I'm seeing there's two gentlemen there, so I'm just coming in, and I'm curious to know what was going on there. Is this with a camp?
No, so this is up in this is London. This is Speaker's Corner over in London and whatnot. And okay. Are you familiar with Speaker's Corner though?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I got a lot of Caribbean family that go over to Speaker's Corner and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Shout out to men like Shakira and all them. Yeah, so I have a Somalian homie over there who has a channel called Somali Speakers and whatnot. And my brother Khalid got the camera, and he's filming two Christian gentlemen talking about apostasy laws in Islam and also about wife beating in the Quran and whatnot. And so I'm digging your appearance on the panel because I'm gonna do a small demonstration about the Quran a little bit, just to clarify some positions for people and whatnot. But there's a certain part of the Quran where I'm going to be talking about wife beating or whatnot, how it's not in the Quran and how it actually talks about divorcement. And I wanted to, and I'm glad you're here because one, you're a woman, but two, you are down on the Torah and whatnot. So you get down on that. So what I do in this is I actually make a comparison to what it says in the previous scripture, because that's what the Quran says to do and whatnot. And it literally says that the Torah is a criterion. And so I get into like some Levitical law on the divorcement concept or whatnot, because a lot of people they read the English part of the Quran and they mistranslate part of it. And when they see it in comparison with the previous scripture, I think it'll become clear for even the Muslims and whatnot. So maybe you could give a breakdown that could even give some Muslims an understanding as to why they shouldn't be putting hands on their wives and whatnot via the teachings of Moses and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But
yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen and get into that, and stop me whenever you want to. Ask any questions whenever you want to. Anything you got to say is fine. Like I said, we just got to make sure we don't have any foul language or whatnot.
Yes.
All that will be well. Hold on, let me stop sharing this. Go back to this. Let me just do it like that. Okay, can you see my screen, sis?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, let me make it big. There we go. Okay, Bob gets corrected by a Quranist on apostasy laws and chivalry. So when the gentleman first came out, he was a Christian who became a Muslim and then went back to being a Christian and whatnot. And so he was talking about apostasy laws and about how people are afraid for their lives and all those kind of things and whatnot. And he cited a hadith that said it was okay, and then he cited the Quran, a Quran verse to where he said it was okay. I just want to be clear, being that I'm a Quranist, I don't recognize a hadith in any way, shape, or form. So I leave that argument for my Muslim brothers who deal with the hadith, because I won't ever defend the hadith. I'm only dealing with this video because the brother brought up the Quran and whatnot. So I'm talking about that concept of things and whatnot. So the verse that he cited was Surah 4, Ayah 89, which stipulates, "They wish you should believe as they disbelieved, so you would be alike. So do not take from among them allies until they immigrate from the cause of Allah. But if they turn away, then seize them and kill them wherever you find them, and take not from among them any ally or helper." So he tried to say that dealt with apostates and whatnot, and that is not the case. And I don't know if he was just young in his study of the Quran, or if he was dealing with some really extreme sects of Islam that teaches that would have to do with apostasy. But I can see where he had a misunderstanding of the verse because he pulled it out by itself. And a lot of times when you pull one verse out in any scripture and you don't read it within context, you're going to get a misunderstanding somewhere.
It's similar. I agree with you. It's similar to what Christians would do with the New Testament. They would pull a verse out or something, but have no understanding of what it says, how that applies to the laws.
Facts. Exactly. I know exactly what you're saying. So I'm going to show this in context a little bit so people can see what this means. So I'm going to show the verse before it and the verse after it. Surah 4:88, it says, "What is the matter with you that you are two groups concerning the hypocrites?" So first and foremost, this is not dealing with apostates. This is dealing with hypocrites. And a hypocrite in the Quran is somebody who, like, you make a treaty with, for instance, but they violate the treaty or something like that. You cannot trust them. They're not trustworthy people and whatnot. So in this concept of dealing with the hypocrites, it says, "While Allah has made them fall back into error and disbelief for what they earned, do you wish to guide those whom Allah has sent astray? And he whom Allah sends astray, never will you find for him a way or of guidance." Then it goes on to say what my man said here. "They wish you would disbelieve as they disbelieve, so you would be alike. So do not take from among them allies until they emigrate from the cause of Allah. But if they turn away, then seize them and kill them wherever you find them, and take not from among them any ally or helper." Now it goes on to say this: "Except for those who take refuge with the people between yourselves, in whom is a treaty, or those who come to you, their hearts strained at the prospect of fighting you or fighting their own people. And if Allah had willed, he could have given them power over you, and they would have fought you. So if they remove them, listen to this, family. So if they remove themselves from you and do not fight you and offer you peace, then Allah has not made for you a cause for fighting against them." So it's not a verse talking about just going out and just killing anybody willy-nilly because they're an apostate or whatnot. This is literally talking about a group of people who you've had a contract with, a peace treaty with, but they've broken it and they're coming at you and whatnot, right? It says basically when you're dealing with the people like that, you got to lay them down or whatnot, unless, and it says unless they join the people who have a treaty of peace with you, and they remove themselves from you, they stop fighting you, etc., and seek peace and offer you peace. Then you cannot fight them. Then you cannot kill them. And this specifically has to do with the hypocrite, not with an apostate. Go ahead, sis.
No, I find that interesting. Like, I've read the Quran before, but that was many years ago. Literally, probably 17 to 20 years ago. I was interested in all religions. So I read the Talmud, I read the Quran. I cannot remember everything in it, Right. So, but I do remember certain things. I will never be a person saying I'm going to challenge any person on the Quran because I do not study it like that. But what you just said to me, that whole reading, you know what I was picturing in my head?
What's that?
And an exact theme that comes from the Tanakh. Whereas, check this out. Remember when the Most High took us, right, from Egypt, and now when he was walking, and remember when he told us, pass and go on to Edom, go there, and we went and asked Edom. Edom denied us on the King's Highway, so it's like, okay, now we got to go all the way around the mountain instead of taking it. But we got to go all the way around the mountain. And then what did the Most High said? The Moabites and the Ammonites, that land belongs to them, so you cannot go intrude. You can go and ask them if you can pass through. And then that's what we did. We went and sent our leaders, asked them to pass if we can pass through. And then the king, I think Sihon, the Moabite, then he denied us, and we left peacefully. We left peacefully, but what happened? They went, and even though we left peacefully, the king went and got his men and came to go attack. So now the Most High put the spirit upon Israel. It's like, yo, all we did was come and ask you if we can pass through. But now, since you came and attacked us innocently, once we have left, now we're going to kick your ass, and now we're going to take your land. That's how we got the land of Moab. You understand?
We got to refrain from any swear words. Even that's a swear word on this one.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're okay, sis. You'll get used to it. It's okay.
I get a little. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm with you. It's okay.
But we that's when we Most High put the spirit out upon us. But there were lands the Most High all told us. Esau's land, that's his land. Moabite's land, that's their land. That this land. When we got into the land of the Canaanites, what did Abraham do to get the Machpelah to bury Sarah? He made a pact with Keth, the Hittites. He made a pact with them, and that's how he bought that land. He didn't go in there trying to fight. Oh, I'm going to get my city. I'm going to fight for this land and that. No, make a peace. Let me buy it. And then they dwelt. That's why, Abraham was able to settle in there and, develop himself there. And so that's what I'm getting from that law. Basically, it's saying, if you do things peacefully, but if the other person go against the peace, now you have a chance, or you have the opportunity to defend yourself, and the Most High will be with you because you did things righteously. So that's what I'm getting from that, when you read it.
Facts. As a matter of fact, the Quran literally tells you to kind of read it from a Tanakh perspective and whatnot. And it continually says the same thing, like, don't start the fight, but if someone starts the fight with you, finish the fight. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's what I.
It says that the Most High does not favor the aggressor. You know what I'm saying? Like, so don't start the fight, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but if, like, it says retreat, if someone fights, it says retreat. And if they continue to follow you, it says leave them where you find them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't play. If they're hypocrites, like, bro, like, you can't. There's another set of rules there, like, because you got to understand, like, you're trying to retreat peacefully, and they will not stop following you and trying to attack you. So you got to know it. You have to turn around and leave them where you find them.
Unless they're still on your property, you have to cheat. You can trace them all the way out, but once they pass, it's like passing state line. Say pass state line, okay, leave them alone.
Right, facts. Yeah, exactly. So if they retreat, if they're on their stuff, cool. And it also says that if they want to seek peace or they want to stop fighting, you have to stop fighting. Like, cool. I can't eradicate you. If the moment you want to stop, cool. I'm gonna go my way, you go yours. Call it a day.
Right.
But I wanted to get into a couple verses real quick that really explain the concept of what apostasy really looks like in the Quran. And this should clear it up. It's only 4 verses and whatnot. The second one is really the only one I'll ever have to read on this. But that's and shout out to my man Bernie Bay, who really likes this verse. You know what I'm saying? That's my dude right there. Y'all be seeing more of him on the channel too. But yeah, this breaks down the concept of those who disbelieve and believe and all those kind of things and whatnot in terms of like apostasy and whatnot. Because it says something really in particular that I want people to understand and whatnot. In Surah 3, Ayat 90 says, indeed, those who reject the message after their belief and then increase in disbelief, never will their claimed repentance be accepted, and they are the ones astray. So I want to read that real slow one more time. Indeed, those who rejected the message, so the Most High sent a prophet to a group and gave them a message from the Most High and whatnot, right? So they reject that message, and after their disbelief, and then increase in disbelief. So understand that. So not only did they reject the messenger of the Most High, so you could have like no religion, right? So the Most High sends you a prophet, and you're supposed to follow that religion. Okay, so it says you reject that religion, or reject the message thereof, right? So it's not saying just that. It's saying those who reject that and then go a whole step further and increase in disbelief. Mm-hmm. So this concept of being a kafir is one who covers the truth. And even in Hebrew, when I says, and correct me if I'm wrong, that concept is, it's like a concept of cover. It's not just covering something up; it's covering something up with something sticky like vitamin. You know what I'm saying? And
go ahead. Analogy I'm getting from that, it's similar to, okay, someone was following the scriptures, you know, the whatever, whether you're Christian or call yourself an Israelite,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden you drop off of it. Okay, that you can understand. But when the person now go and makes it their job to go now and say all kind of things about the scriptures and burn the scriptures and just demean it. Now you're just going out of your way. You're making it your job and taking an effort to now, you know, go after something where you can just walk away from it and leave it alone. But now you're cursing, you know, the God of many people
Mm-hmm.
and the creator as we see him. So that's what I get.
Yeah, that was funny for all you who heard. She literally just choked on the word Christian. That almost had me dying in real time. I was like, wow, she literally just choked on the word Christian. Shout out to all my Torah only family out there.
That was faux pas.
No, that's just hilarious. Just the the picture of it is just. These are people who increase their disbelief. So these are people who go into covering the truth now. They don't just disbelieve what the Most High sent them. They go into covering what they find out to be true. So it's saying that these people will not have their repentance accepted or whatnot. Like if you reject what the Most High gave you and you come back to it, the Most High says, "No, I got you. You can turn back to me. You can turn back."
Exactly.
But these are people who go a whole nother step. So when it says increasing disbelief, it's talking about the concept of like, okay, so now it's saying like, you know, that you rejected the Most High knowing that it was true, and you increase, now you try to even cover up that whole truth. It's a whole nother concept. It's taking it a whole nother step. But just to clarify this whole bit about apostasy, Surah 4 ayah 137 clears it up. Just watch how this one breaks down. Indeed, those who have believed. Okay, so you received the message of the Most High. Then you disbelieved, so you rejected. Then you believed, so you came back to the message of the Most High. Then you disbelieved, so you left it again. So just before I even go further in the verse, so this nullifies any apostasy law concept out there in the Islamic world or whatnot, in the sense where you can kill someone who leaves your so-called religion or whatnot. Because this verse talks about somebody who got the religion, then left it once. So they should be dead right there, but they're not. It says, then they believe again. You can't come back and believe again if you're dead, if you've been killed for apostasy. It's not possible. It's not possible. You're not a cat with 9 lives. It's not possible. So it says they believed, then they disbelieved, then believed, then disbelieved again. So you went around that rodeo twice. And then increase in disbelief. So again, it's talking about those who increase in disbelief. That whole concept afterwards, right? Never will Allah forgive them, nor will he guide them to a way. So there's no death so check this out. Not only is there no death penalty for the apostate, there's no death penalty for the person who increases in disbelief after knowing the truth. It just says Allah is going to deal with them. That God, the Most High, is going to deal with them. Like, all right, cool. Like if you don't expect to spit in the face of the Most High and not have like some kind of retribution off that, right? You're going to get dealt with in some way, shape, or form, right? Like if you were sent the message and you know you were sent the message and you try to cover up the truth thereof and try to cover it from other people, no, there's for lack of a better term, there's karma for that. You're going to reap what you sow, man. It just is what it is. It doesn't say someone's going to, like, you're not going to die by some man's hand. It doesn't say that, no. It says the Most High is going to do it with you. We're going further, just last 2 verses. Surah 9 ayah 66. Make no excuse. You have disbelieved after your belief. If we, capital We, talking about the Most High, pardon one faction of you, we, talking about the Most High, will punish another faction because they were criminals. So this is why I keep talking about this concept of separating the people who leave the faith versus ones who leave the faith then increase in disbelief. Because it says one group will be pardoned and one group will be punished. So there is no punishment for leaving the faith. No. Like, so you can ignorantly leave the faith and have a reason for it, right? But if you repent and come back, No. You're fine. You're part. You're straight. But if you leave and increase in disbelief, not just leave, but leave and increase in disbelief, you start covering the truth. No, there's a like we, the Most High, will punish you. No death penalty, but the Most High is going to deal with you. Surah 16:106. Whoever disbelieves in Allah after his belief, except for one who is forced to renounce his religion while his heart is in secure faith, but those who willingly open their breasts to disbelief, upon them is wrath from Allah, and for them is a great punishment. Again, nowhere is a death penalty for anybody. Nowhere is there a death penalty. It's consistently talking about the Most High is going to deal with you. The Most High is going to deal with you. The Most High is going to deal with you. So just so we're clear, family, there is no death penalty for apostasy within the Quran. For all my family that deals with the Hadith, y'all gotta sleep in the bed that y'all made on that one, right? Like, so when Bob the Builder and everyone else at Speaker's Corner like debates you on the Hadith, y'all got to deal with that one. I reject the Hadith, so that's not even my argument. So I'm gonna jump on to another one. Is there anything you want to say on that, sis? I wonder if she's still there. If she dropped out. No, she's still there. She probably got something to do right quick. So while she's handling that, I'm going to jump into, well, hold on real quick. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat. No questions in the chat. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to Micah Paul. Shout out to Cliff Hoskins. Shout out to Plus Beats. Appreciate y'all coming through. Shout out to Poetry by Kareem Majuda. Appreciate y'all coming through. But real quick, let me share my screen one more time. The breakdown. Let me see if I got the right one here. Okay, I see the sis saying she has to drop out and come back in. Yeah, no worries. If you got to drop out and come back in, go ahead. I'll put the link back in there for you. And anyone else who wants to jump on, you are more than welcome to. Again, all we ask is there is no profanity, no foul language on the Debate Talk for You platform. Shout out to Sal Showtime for letting us get on the platform and rock out. There you go, sis. You doing okay?
Yes. I couldn't unlock my the mic. Nothing was working, so I couldn't respond. Apologize for that.
No worries. Now, this part I really, really want your opinion on. I'm about to walk through the parts about the escalations to divorce in the Quran and where people mistranslate the wife beating. But then I'm gonna get into it in the Torah and some other stuff in the Torah, and I really want your opinion on that part.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's get this.
Let's get it. So, can you beat your wife via the verses of the Quran? Can you strike your wife via the verse of the Quran? Surah 4, Ayah 34 is one of the most mistranslated, or one of the most hot button topic, third rail verses in the Quran and whatnot. Because this is a verse where a lot of people say that you can beat your wife, etc., whatnot. And so Bob the Builder mentioned to where a lot of the Sunnis talk about this means symbolically, and they go into their hadith to make it to where they beat their woman with like a toothbrush or something like that. Like it's a symbolic beating to show that their displeasure with them or whatnot. So they go out of their way to say that it means to beat, but they go even more out of their way to make it say that it's a symbolic beating. So I'm just going to break this down real quick. It says men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So real quick, this is not talking about like some misogynistic situation. This is talking about the fact of a marital contract and whatnot, and the fact that men pay a bridal price, etc., whatnot. That there's an agreement that they have and whatnot, right? And that the women aren't bound to pay the men in the agreement. The men are bound to pay the women, and there's supposed to be an agreement based upon that concept, right? And so it's not talking about like misogyny. It's talking about honoring contracts and what parties owed what, etc., whatnot. So that goes into the language of this and whatnot. But please pay attention to that language. So again, men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed. And it says here, and finally strike them. But if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. So we're going to deal with this part here and finally strike them.
Controversial part.
Yeah, 100%. So this comes from the trilateral root daraba, and it occurs 55 times in the Quran as a verb. 15 times it means to strike, and 40 times it means to set forth from. So the dominant meaning for this verb is to set forth from.
So if I was reading that, I would read it as, and if not, set them forth, let them go, let them leave.
100%.
Right. Mistranslation. That's right. I get it. Yes, do your thing, brother. I get it.
Oh, no worries. So this word is used one time in the entirety of the Quran, wadrabuna. And they use it to translate as to finally strike them and whatnot. However, the same base word for daraba is used to also mean in the Most High sets forth. And again, it's used more often than not to say set forth than it is to say strike. So in the Quran, there's this concept of, I'll show this, the linguistic context found in the verse of the fully detailed Quran. In Surah 39, ayat 23, it says that Allah has sent down the best statement, a consistent book wherein is reiteration. So when it says reiteration, it says it's making the same point over and over again so you can get a clarity from it. Right. So you're not going to get a misunderstanding and whatnot. So basically, you can use the book to define itself because it reiterates itself, it repeats itself.
Right.
And so to get full clarity on this concept, the man in the video was talking about an escalation in punishment, and it's not an escalation in force. It's an escalation in divorce. I'm going to say that one more time for people. It's not an escalation in force like Bob was talking about. It's an escalation in divorce. Now, I don't fault him for his understanding of what he was saying, because the majority of Muslims that he deals with are Sunni and will defend the fact that their hadith says, no, this means to beat. You know what I'm saying? So I don't fault him for his understanding, but I'm showing him what the actual Quran says word for word via the language itself, which a lot of people don't do. And since I know you can feel that concept coming from the Torah perspective and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? But So I'm going to read some verses that deal with divorce and whatnot in reiteration so you can get the concept of escalation. And I'm also going to back it up. So the Quran stipulates that if you're in doubt as to what's coming down to you, to go to the people of the previous scripture for clarity. And it says that Moses was given a criterion for the guidance of the people. So basically the one that has the most credence is the Torah. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to go read the same concept about the Torah and get the sister's perspective on this whole thing. So it says here in Surah 2, ayah 26, for those who swear not to have sexual relations with their wives is a waiting time for 4 months. But if they return to normal relations, then indeed Allah is forgiving and merciful. So in that first escalation in Surah 4, ayah 34, it says, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake the bed, right? So basically you stop having marital relations or sexual relations at that juncture and whatnot. And so, first of all, I want to, like, for me, I really appreciate that, because there's no expectation for either party to have sex with the other party if they can't even get along verbally. I like that that's actually written down. But the next verse even gives more clarity, right? And if they decide on divorce, then indeed Allah is hearing and merciful. That's Surah 2, ayah 227. So this is one verse right after the other. So this is telling
both parties agreeing on the separation, on the divorce.
Yep. They either agree. So it says basically at the end of 4 months, you either agree. If you decided that you're not going to have sex anymore, then the waiting period is 4 months. And when you're done with 4 months, either you agree to stay together or you agree to get divorced. One of the two. That's the whole point of the 4 months and whatnot, right? So one more time, for those who swear not to have sexual relations with their wives is a waiting time of 4 months. But if they return to normal relations, then indeed Allah is forgiving and merciful. And if they decide on divorce, then indeed Allah is hearing and merciful. So here's the reiteration of what. So again, the Quran says it reiterates itself or whatnot. So it says in Surah 2 at 229, divorce is twice, then either keep her in an acceptable manner or release her with good treatment. It is not lawful for you to take anything of what you have given them unless both fear what they will not be able to keep within the limits of a law. But if you fear that they will not keep within the limits of a law, then there is no blame upon either of them concerning that by which she ransoms herself. These are the limits of a law, so do not transgress them. And whoever transgresses the limits of a law, it is those who are the wrongdoers. So listen to this. It says divorce is twice. Then either keep them in an acceptable manner or release them with good treatment. It doesn't say to beat them. It says either keep them in acceptable manner or release them in good treatment. Putting your hands on a woman is not good treatment. In any way, shape, or form. It's not good treatment. And we get further clarity still in the further reiteration of the Quran. It says in Surah 2, Ayah 31, and when you divorce women and they have nearly fulfilled their term, what term? That term of 4 months. Either retain them according to acceptable terms or release them according to acceptable terms, and do not keep them intending harm. And it literally says to hurt in the Arabic there. So again, we get this concept of, okay, either at the end of 4 months, either you're staying together or you're agreeing on divorce. So either keep them according to acceptable terms or release them according to acceptable terms, and do not keep them intending harm. So again, in Surah 2 Ayah 29, it says release her with good treatment, or in Surah 2 Ayah 231, and do not keep them intending harm. But in both situations, you're releasing them if they don't want to be there.
That's right. That's what I'm getting from it.
Yeah. So clearly the Quran instructs us to take a 4-month waiting period once the bed is no longer being shared. Then either a divorce is reached in which the woman is released or set forth in good treatment and not retained in harm, or there is a return to normal marital relations. That's what I read in the reiteration thereof. So when I read this verse, Surah 4, Ayah 34, this is how I read it. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other, and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally you set forth from them, or you set them forth. However you want to read it. I personally think it makes more sense if they set them forth. It says release them in good manner, release them. And it makes sense because you have to understand it's a contract. So you're literally releasing them from a contractual bond and whatnot.
And I see it also when I read it also from an ethnic point of view, if you will, because I see the area they grew up with the same. I mean, we're talking about the Levant, right? These are the laws where the Most High, that's his area, right? His name is over that area. So when I read, when it says righteous women are devoutly obedient regarding in the husband's absentee. So for me, when I read that, I'm saying, okay, I'm looking at the men are away at work, they're away at war. And here is the women who are at home with the children how are they? It says they are devoutly obedient, guarding in the absentee. So these are righteous women who are keeping the house and they're taking care of the kids, right? But then when it goes on to say, but these wives from when you I can't.
It says whom you fear arrogance.
Reading it smooth.
It
For
says
fear of arrogance. Okay.
Yep.
Advise them. In other words, you come back to your house after war, after work, whatever, and you just have a rambunctious woman, a woman who she probably didn't do the dishes, she didn't wash the clothes, the kids are, not, curtailed, they're not studying the laws, whatever. So I'm seeing it when I read that, I'm looking at that kind of woman, like an arrogant woman, like, yo, fix your own dinner type of woman.
Right.
Then if they persist, like they continue, like, babe, you don't want to listen, I'm going out working. And we know back then it's the men who were going out fighting the wars and doing the battles and bringing back home the spoils to the women. So basically, if the man comes back home and I'm bringing all the spoils, and then I have to go back to a dirty house, it's unkept, the kids are rude, they don't even know the laws, you haven't taught them the Quran, or you haven't taught them the Torah, So that's why I'm seeing there's a difference being made yet. So that second woman is the one who, man, you're coming back to her and give her 4 months. If she still don't want to get in shape, then hey, you have the right to leave her. And I agree with that. As a woman, I agree with that. No man should have to come home from a hard day's work and have to come home and work. He should be able to enjoy his family when he comes home and enjoy his home. So I'm down with that.
So yeah, that's what's up. So in context, and this is for all my Christians and Muslims to understand where these prescriptions even come from. So I'm going to break down where the 4 months comes from, but I'm also going to read Deuteronomy 24:1 to understand it's the same escalation in divorce, not an escalation in force, right? It says in Deuteronomy 24:1, when a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanliness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. It doesn't say put hands on her. It says give her the bill of divorcement and say goodbye to her. Send her forth. Same context in both books. And so the Quran literally says that I have to go to the previous scripture and stand on it, and that the Torah is a criterion. So I'm rocking with what it says like that. So the Torah doesn't say put hands on her. It definitely doesn't say that. But check out where this 4 months comes from. In Judges, we get the story. We all know the story of the concubine who went through the horrible concept of basically being molested to death, and her body was actually like divided up and sent to the different parties of Israel and whatnot, right? But a lot of people will skip out on the first part of the story. So just the first few verses explains something that I want to show people, because this has to do with the Levite now. Okay, so this is a priest dealing with the law. Okay, so Judges 19:1, and it came to pass in those days when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah, and his concubine played the whore against him, and went away from him unto her father's house to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months. And her husband arose and went after her to speak friendly unto her, and to bring her again, having a servant with him and a couple of donkeys. And she brought him into her father's house. And when the father of the damsel saw him, he rejoiced to meet him. So we see the same context. She went and played the harlot on your man, and went to her father's house for 4 months of separation. And the man decided, you know what? I want to try to work this out. And he rose up and went after her to speak friendly unto her and to bring her again. So again, the concept was, okay, advise her, then forsake the bed. So you have a 4 month waiting period. And now you either decide if you stay together or if you get divorced. He said, I want to keep her. So he went back to go claim his woman. And the father of the damsel was happy to see him. So that's my demonstration on that, sis. I would love your take on any of that.
Well, it's funny because I've actually read that. I've read that verse in the Hebrew, and it's interesting. Even that Levite, he's called a ger. I just wanted to throw that out for you. Yeah, when you read it in Hebrew, he's called a ger. Yeah.
We got to do that whole lesson over here again. Plus, we got to do the breakdown on the animals, sis, like the animals and the trees and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'd love to set that. What? Yes.
No, you had me thinking on the lesson on the trees. I was like, wow, I didn't even see it like that. I was like, well, okay, we got to build on that. But hold on real quick. My man, Village Faction. Yes, I'm specifically saying that the translation is wrong, 100%. And from what I just showed, there's no way it can be translated to strike them. It would have to be translated as to set forth, which is the dominant meaning of the verb. So the burden of proof is actually on the people who want to make it say beat, to make it the minority meaning of the verb. Because again, it's only used 4 or 15 times to say to strike or to beat something, right? It's used 40 times to say to set forth from something.
Mm-hmm. Right. And for me, I see the equivalent to that is what I see what the King James, not just the King James, but every English translation, right?
Mhm.
That the English version, when you go and read the Hebrew script, a lot of the words are mistranslated. You know, they have the wrong, in other words, like new moon, things. You can go in there where it would say, what was it? I was reading I think it was Isaiah 53. I went studying it again in Hebrew, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh snap, they have it there. Like one of the words, it's like key words. If you take it out, it just throws off the meaning, and it can throw you into something fake. So let me tell you, if one day I'm gonna do this, because I already did it. I have it written down. I did a translation of Isaiah 53,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the sentences stay the same. But you're gonna see a few words change that changes the whole complete sentence
The
and the
whole
when
thing.
it's saying he, it doesn't say he, it says they, it says them. So little things like that, there's so much of that, and that's what I spend my time doing. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
what is, yeah, let me read it for myself. Is it saying he, they, them, she, her, it? Like, what's going on here? What's the subject? You know, so anyway, I would love to do that because trees and plants, bushes, grass, the eseb, the herb, they all have specific meanings in Hebrew, and it's all talking about people.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to do a breakdown of that one day. It has to be separate from the animal because that's a long breakdown, many verses.
Yeah, no, I'd love to do a little series on that. Seriously, because because again, like so, like I was saying earlier, that the people who deal with the Quran have finally hit their age of textual criticism, finding like textual variants that they have to compare and contrast to see what it's actually saying now. The Christians were hit with that a long time ago in the sense to where like with the book of Luke, for instance, they found there was a bunch of variant text of the book of Luke, so they had to compare and contrast to see what it was actually saying and whatnot, right? So when it comes to the Torah and the Tanakh and whatnot, what we have to realize as people who deal with that book, etc., is the fact that like, okay, it originally did not have vowel points when it was written down.
Mm-hmm.
So to assume that we know what everything means with the vowel points is a big assumption. It's a big assumption.
Right. That's right. That's right. That's why the vowel points, they mean nothing to me. For me, the reason why I use the vowel points, because in my mind, since I don't speak it and I'm reading it, I have to form a way to pronounce it in my mind. So berechit, bara, you understand? So it's like I form it. So when I read it to myself, I'm pronouncing it. I might say the word to somebody else and they're pronouncing it differently. I don't care. I'm not going to argue with them. For me, in my mind, when I read it, I'm able to read it fluently, as much as I can, but without all the fighting of is it pronounced like this? Or should I pronounce it like this? And that's where people get lost in the what's going on in the message, because they're spending too much time on the pronunciation of the words. None of us know. So let's just roll with it and just understand what it's saying instead of how to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see the same thing with with the what you're saying, what the whole Arabic script, the Quran, right? They take it, and there's a lot of mistranslation, just like the King James and all English version. There are a lot of words, or there are words that are mistranslated, and people rock, like the Hadith. They would rock with the bad translation version, and now it transforms and put different thoughts into people's mind. And oh, that book is this, and oh, Yah is a pagan god, and he's it forms it because of mistranslation.
Facts. And the funny thing is, the Quran literally says like, so like there's verses in the Most High scriptures that are literal, and some that are allegorical. And it says that those who would be like the hypocritical ones, right? They take the verses that are allegorical and they use those to mislead people and whatnot with all kind of weird doctrines and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, It's all about like, so the Quran is the same as the Torah in the sense where like when it was written down, it didn't have vowel points either. They put the vowel points in way later. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. They weren't even, I actually did I didn't do extensive research, but I did research because I love languages. So I did the research on the Hebraic language, right? And the vowel points. Some people want to call it Aramaic. Fine, whatever you call it. Let's call it the Adamic language, right?
Sure.
So when you go and look at it, a lot of the words, and even in the Hebrew, when you're reading it, sometimes you're reading the word peace, and it's spelled with the three, the SLM, and then sometimes you're reading it, it's spelled with the SML, the Wav, in the M. So, and then what that goes to show you. So when I studied, it says before the 500 years before the vowel, when they started introducing the whole vowel concept and reprinting the Hebrew, they didn't insert the wav and the yod and stuff into these words, but they started doing it 500 years after the discovery. So when you're reading the word shalom, the wav may not belong there, but it's there just to give you an idea how to pronounce the word. You have to have that O, that ow sound, that ow, that wav, sound. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's why sometimes you can read a lot of words and like, for instance, the words for city is Ir, right? It's spelled Ayin, Yod, Resh, right? But then many places you see it written and it's just spelled the Ayin, Resh without the Ir. So the Yod and the Eid started to be introduced in the probably after the or during the after the Nehemiah Ezra era into the Greek. They started to introduce this because other people now want to learn how to pronounce it. So it's like because that letter has the sound, it makes the E and the I and the ow, o, oo sound. You can use those to introduce it, so it helps people to understand. Fast forward now, when you get down to the time of what do you call the Dead Sea Scrolls? At this point, the Masoretic text, actually, that's when there's like, now you have all kind of nations with our scripture in their hand, and they want to understand and to remember how to pronounce and teach in the universities and stuff, Alexandria and all that. They want to teach their scholars, the other nation, how to pronounce these words. So now they start introducing the Nakuds and all of that stuff. You understand what I'm saying? So the average really can help. Okay, it means ooh, ah, e, o, oo. These are the sounds. And that's all that means. And when I'm sorry if I talk too much
No, you're good,
sometimes.
money. No, you're fine.
So sometimes when I hear like I forget the terminology they use for the language, but they do the tahawada, shahamama, and everything is ah.
Yeah.
First of all, that doesn't even make sense because that would imply the Most High bestowed wisdom, knowledge, and everything and language upon Adam and his seed, the breath and everything, and they were to write and everything, but he just gave them one vowel sound. It's I mean, when I sit down and just think about things like that, it doesn't make sense. So the Most High only gave Adam one vowel sound. So Adam didn't know how to say Adam and his people. So people back then, we didn't know all throughout history when we were speaking Hebrew, we didn't know how to make sounds like ooh, ee, ah, oh. We didn't know how to make sounds like that. That's why that language, when they get into there was no E, there was no I, there was no. Then you're saying the Most High gave us a language with no flavor. The Most High gave us a language with just one vowel sound. You understand where I'm coming from?
No seasoning.
I'm not.
No salt and pepper. You know what I'm saying? No seasoning to it. Just a real bland No, I'm with you though, because like I don't really trip on it too much. Like it's not how I deal with the language or whatnot. Because historically speaking, when I trace the people we come from, like directly, right, in terms of like how we got over to the Americas, whatnot, like they were like the Hebrew they were dealing with, it wasn't just one letter, right? You know what I'm saying? Not only that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the alphabet in either the Psalms or Proverbs, whatever, doesn't that have 2 vowels in it?
Yeah, the vowel sound. Exactly. There you go. Exactly.
So how do you determine, like, so if there's letters, if you got letters for vowels, right? You know, it's like if it's in the alphabet, you know what I'm saying? Like, break that down for me. Not to mention, like, how do you determine when you use which letter? You know what I'm saying? Like, when is it which vowel? If it's just the 2, how do you figure that one out? Like, what's the language rules for that? Like, they haven't. I haven't seen that broken down yet in the way they talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, for me personally, the way I see it is that it's constantly there where you see words and the same word is translated in English, and you would see it spelled sometimes with 2 consonants, and then sometimes you would see it spelled with the wav and the yod, which are also consonant, but because of the sound they make the like the yod, for example. The yod is our letter in Y. That when I read it, that's how I see it. The Y alphabet in English, right?
Okay.
So the Y alphabet, you can use it as a Y, and you can use it as a E, as in monkey. You understand? At E at the end. So that's how I see that letter, the yod. You can it can be E, or it can be I. Like, so for example, when they say the word Sarai, you're just going off of the word from the resh sliding into the I, so Sarai. So the Y, that yod is used, that's where the English get the same thing. They use, remember, English is the newest language, main language. So it stems from all the other languages that come about, right? It's a bastard language. So it takes a sample of everything. And even in Spanish, it's like, ven acá aquí, it's the E at the end, the E. Same thing in the German, same thing, a lot of it in the Latin, all the Latin language, Portuguese, Latin, Italian, whatever. It's that same E sound, or you can make a Y sound, that Y sound. So you would see words that are spelled with the Wav and the Yod, the Yod, or without it, it's translated to the same exact word. So when I see people, when they write Shalom, for me, I would say, okay, you could say Shalom because we have the city of Salem, right? But guess what? Was it pronounced Shalom? That's where it gets tricked. So now when I see it a lot of places where that the wav sound is introduced, I say to myself, okay, so the word is not shalom, it's shalom, or that's why. So I understand when people say shalom, I can understand that, but it doesn't introduce the vav to signify a consonant. It introduces it sometimes. The Most High introduces it basically to show you that O sound, the shalom, that O, or even if you say shalom, shalom, that's why the wav is represent. It's sometimes inserted there. It's not there all the time. So that's the key point. If it's not there all the time, and then you're still supposed to pronounce it with the wav in it, how do you do that? No, that wav is there to tell you, no, you got to add that oo or that o sound to it. Shalom, shalom. So I just let the language teach me, and that's what it's been teaching me, because many words have what they call vowel sounds in it, but the vowel is not there.
Well, they use the consonant, exactly. Well, they use the consonant to make the vowel. Yeah, that's
like Shiloh. There is no O there. When you see the word Shiloh is the same. Is the S is the same word for Selah. Shai. You got the shin. You understand what I'm saying? So it
Yeah.
just
Okay.
now how you gonna be pronouncing it? Selah is Shiloh. What they say, Shiloh, Shiloh.
Hmm.
That I don't get caught up in the vowel sounds. It's like, what does the word mean? What is it saying? That's what's important.
Yeah. Interesting. So in terms of the so I'm with the to me like the W seems like where I can see where the ooh would come from. Where do you
Yeah.
think the O comes from?
Okay. You know the W from the English. Now, if you pronounce that letter, if you will pronounce it in uh other languages
Hmm.
that are older than English,
Hmm.
you would see the the oo sound. Okay, for example, in Spanish, the way you say the way you say W, you
Hmm.
say doble U. You say W.
Right. Facts.
W, meaning you have the V. Remember? Yeah, it's like two V's, and the V was like considered like, because the Romans they didn't know how to carve out the U because it
Hmm.
kept cracked. So that's why you see a lot of even here in New York, all over, you see all these Roman Greco architecture, their courthouses and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
you see a lot of the words, and they have the V that represent the U. It's because they couldn't carve out the U like we did in ancient time, because the U is a sensitive because of the curvature. They had to use a V instead because they couldn't do the curvature of the U. I learned all of that in when I was taking architectural engineering. But yeah, it was fascinating. But so that V, that W is that ooh, W. So
Hmm.
you can see where you get that woo sound. When you go and look at it in other cultures like Italian and a lot of these different, even in German, in the German language, you get that woo sound. Ooh, or oh, the way, the alphabets. I, E, O, U.
So the way you just said it there, right? Like, so to me, it would seem like the W represents the long ooh sound, or one would be O, one would be ooh in a sense, right? Um,
Right,
so
right,
you can have like a long A and a short A or something like that, a long I and a short I. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay.
right. So if, for example, in the scripture, and if it says, and God says, right? I pronounce it in my head. I pronounce it because they say it's the wav, right? Some people say vav, vav, but vav is more of the German. What do you call that? Sephardic. I
Yiddish.
think the Sephardic, right? If I'm not mistaken, they're the Sephardic Jews, and the Ashkenazi are over there.
You talking about like Yiddish?
Yeah, yeah, like the Germans. They say, like, if they were to say,
Yeah, they said the Bob. Yeah,
they would say wasch und mich und schmecke dich, right?
right.
They,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I studied, like I tell you, I study all languages, but that's how they would pronounce it. That vash. They use the hard V sound, right? But when you go over now to the Jews that are over in Spain and Europe on that part, they don't say va, they say wa.
Hmm.
So they use that wa, that the wa sound and all that. So just all these languages, when you study all the languages where they come from, it's just a matter of, and we don't know. We don't know if it's Sebotet. It was, the scripture of that when the one guy was trying to trick to come into our camp, and the Israelites say, okay, say Shebothet. And the guy said, Sebotet. And then because he could pronounce, and you have a lot of languages like that, like
Right.
people
Right.
don't know how to pronounce the V sound. My Turkish mechanic till this day, 30 years, he still says Diwan. He said Diwanya. He can't say Devanya. He
Hmm.
can't on that side of the world. So it's just all a matter of where we were living at the time. And since we were scattered everywhere, east, west, if anybody's out there, listen, don't get caught up in the pronunciation of words or vowels. Just learn what the text is saying, like Orthodox Moor is showing you right now. The word means force out. It doesn't mean strike. It means, not,
That
I mean,
force.
it means send forth, send forth. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean strike. So it's just taking our time and just do intellectual studies, and we can get to the truth.
Facts. 100%. 100%. Yeah, the language part is so big. Like, so I'm doing the same thing with the Torah myself, just in the sense where I was telling Yara the other day, I was like, man, like Exodus 21 is like one of the most, like, so you were saying with Isaiah 53, I had to go retranslate Isaiah 53 too, right? Like, it's like, man, when I went through it word for word, it was it was a whole nother journey, right? A whole nother journey. He just blew the hair all the way back. I was like, okay, it's like that then. But I started doing that to all like the so-called controversial verses in aspects of the Torah and whatnot. Because people say, oh, the Torah is so backward, the Torah is so misogynistic, it's so bloody, it's so etc. Whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went back over like Exodus 21, like the verses where they break down where you and I would talk about servitude and whatnot, where a lot of people talk about slavery. When I'm like, no, when you go word for word. And in the context of what it's talking about, like it's a whole, like it would be it goes from being a chapter people would hate to a chapter people would love. You know what I'm saying? Because it's literally like guaranteed. So again, you and I both agree on the concept of like it's talking about like working. It's not or a service. It's not talking about like chattel slavery, whatnot, right? And so like these are literally like labor laws. Do you know what I'm saying? Like in depth labor laws. You know what I'm saying? So like you would want them in your workplace now if you understood what it was saying in the Hebrew.
Exactly. So you know what? You might have to restructure the title of this, because I'm gonna ask you a question. You ready for a challenge question in Exodus?
Okay. Hold on. Let me get ready. Go ahead.
I'm not even around my scripture. I'm cooking, so I'm back and forth. You ever check out Exodus 1? Like, have you ever really checked out Exodus 1?
What you got for me?
I believe it's Exodus 1, yeah. In Hebrew. I would love for you to read that, and read that with the concept remember by concept I'm saying when it's talking about beast, fowl, this and that. If you read that in Hebrew with that concept, you will understand, because everybody talks about the sacrifice, what Israel have to do. Remember, you have to be clean and keeping the laws to be in the Most High land, right? And if Israel had to do, bring this and sacrifice and bring, repent and do all their thoughts and all of that, what about the people that was working for us? They just get to come in dirty? Where is the law? Where are the laws for them? When you start understanding who the beasts and the fowls and all, you read Exodus 1, it's going to come clear. I want you to read that in Hebrew. Read Exodus 1 in Hebrew.
Yeah,
it's going to blow your mind.
We got to do that. We got to do that series on the trees and on the animals first, and then we got to jump into that, right? Like, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, so for you, like the way you get into things, I feel like that would be a good primer to understand, because I feel what you're saying. Like, man, I've been stuck in Genesis for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like, because when you start redoing stuff and going back to the drawing board, like going from scratch, and like you're saying, like most times, show me what this says from beginning to end. Like it's, like you have to. Like you have to really firmly understand the beginning to understand the middle to understand the end or whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I did it reverse. I asked the Most High, like, show me the ending from the beginning, like he wrote the book. So every time I study from the ending, because the ending is where the clues are. The Most High start revealing to you who the beasts are, and the beasts are kings of the earth, and what the horns represent. He starts telling you who the snakes are, who the serpents are. He starts revealing everybody in the end. So I study from the end and see who the players are. And then I go right back to Genesis. And when he says, and I created the serpent, and I created the beast, and I created the fire, I'm like, okay, these are the same nations he talk about who he's going to punish in the book of Ezekiel. Get it?
Yeah, see, See, yeah, we got we gotta do a whole series, sis. Like I'm trying to get like a Torah only panel set up for like Tuesdays and Thursdays and whatnot. Are those days good for you or no?
Listen, right now I'm just 6 months away from retiring, and I'm just quarantining myself, so to speak. So I have lots of time on my hand right now.
Okay, because I'm trying to make it like a regular thing right now to get different people on different panels to have regular shows or whatnot. Like have like some New Testament shows, some Quran shows, and definitely some Torah only shows. You know what I'm saying? So I would definitely appreciate some of those lessons coming out, because I found them to be fascinating, because I never, particularly when you start talking about the trees, I was like, wow, okay. Hadn't thought about it like that. Let me step back and reread again from the whole Genesis perspective. I'll really hit the reset button to make sure. Let me get this from the beginning correctly. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, I would love that breakdown on the animals and whatnot. And we might have to space it out to a few different shows so people like don't get inundated with all the different.
No, it has to be. It has to be, because I'm not coming to you when I do the trees. It's gonna need a whole show by itself. When I do the animals, guess what? You might need a show. When we talk about the beasts, we're going to need a show by itself. When we talk about the dragons, we're going to need a show by itself, because I'm coming with, there's so many verses, and the whole thing, there's so many verses. And then the way I'm going to position them, it's a time, and it's like, yo, oh my God. And it's like, oh shit, it was right there all the time. When I tell you, I've been flabbergasted what the Most High has been showing me. And that's why I get so anxious sometimes when I'm on air, because like I'm bubbled to show it, but sometimes foolishness and egos and, get in the way. And I get discouraged. And it's like, yeah, I can't, I'm not here to fight anybody. I'm just here to share. But yeah, I have lots and lots of stuff, because I do what you say you're doing now. I've been doing this stuff almost. I'm like, everything. Every time I hear them say something bad about the scripture, I have to go and study it in Hebrew and get the proper understanding, because otherwise I can't sleep.
Right.
So let me tell you, I have a few books of notes on so many different subjects. We can probably do a show a week for a year.
That's what's up. See, now we need to, because again, when it comes to the language, it's like people really like we're fighting over stuff like, do you just pronounce everything with an A and all, versus understanding, okay, what is like in the history of the game, there was no vowels written down. So in the sense to how we understand it now, so what was it actually saying in the way it was written down? You know what I'm saying? Like we really, like when you take out the diacritic marks, like basically you have to like take all the dictionaries and smash them together in the sense where like, so like when you so SLM could have like 4 or 5 different words that go with that, right? Depending on what vowel points you put in, right? So basically you have to put all those definitions together and find out, okay, that's the definition for SLM, all of them together. And now in understanding all that, what version of that definition does it mean via the context that I'm reading it in? Do you know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you something.
Shoot.
What would be the difference if 1,000 or 3,000-4,000 years from now, there's been destruction, blah, blah, blah. People start over, right? And they dig up and they unearth some, a stone carved, and it has on it, OMG, you are MYBFF.
I'm thinking about that stuff all the time.
That's how we rock. And I'm just saying that's how we wrote this book. That's why you had no vowel. That's how we talk. We know what each other is saying. You just need the consonants. OMG.
Yeah.
You know what it means. So yeah, they're gonna say, 1,000 years from now, they're gonna be like, oh mag. It's like, are they gonna be saying oh mag, or they're gonna say, no, stupid, that means oh my God. No, it means oh my God.
Right, exactly. Someone's gonna say, you got to put an A in between all that.
Exactly. That's what I meant.
Omega, LALBAFAF.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you know they find an inscription that said LOL on it, what they gonna say? Well, how they
Right.
gonna pronounce that?
Right.
Are they gonna understand? Are they gonna get to the point where they get to understand? No, that
Exactly.
means laugh out loud.
Right.
Or they're gonna create a word and make up a meaning for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the letters, every letter in the Hebrew has a meaning. The Most High knew exactly what he was doing. That way, even if you try to manipulate it, it's like, no, even the letters have a meaning to the word that is being said and spoken about.
Facts. Facts, 100%. Hey, well, check this out, sis. I'm about to wind this show down and
Okay.
go do some other things real quick. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna get at you a little bit later and talk about these other shows that we got planned out because I think it would be fascinating to actually really schedule out these talks on the trees, and animals, and the way you're talking about like a Torah perspective on eschatology, because a lot of people don't get that concept. So like we're talking about going from the end to the beginning or whatnot. I think that's interesting. So we
Yeah.
definitely got to build on that, sis.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, let me know. Shoot me a text and let me know which one you want me to start out with so I can prep everything.
Yeah, if you're free, I'll call you later and we can build on it.
Yeah, definitely. Do that.
That's what's up.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on. And
Oh,
peace to everybody out there listening in the chat.
Yeah, peace and shalom, sis. I appreciate you coming on 100%. So one more time, family, I appreciate my brother Khalid and his channel, Somali Speakers and whatnot. I put all his information down below. You can go check him out. Check out the original video. There's more to it than what I showed. You can go subscribe to his channel. His PayPal's down there, all that type of stuff. Definitely don't forget Sal Showtime's Cash App and whatnot. Shout out to Sal. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Again, this is a new regular segment I'll be bringing on hopefully once a week. You know what I'm saying? Trying to link up the Speaker's Corner in the American crew. You know what I'm saying? But with that, shout out to all my peoples in Speaker's Corner. Shout out to all my people in the Americas. Peace and love, family.